Hey, friends, welcome to another episode of Sobriety Reset. And as promised, I'm going to go over the three phases of getting sober. We're going to be talking about foundational skills. We're going to talk about uncover, discover, discard. That's going to be like the second phase. That's a little bit of house cleaning. And then the third phase is creating lasting change. So let's just start with the first phase. So the first phase is really about looking at your past. It's like your family history. A lot of people go through 12-step or rehabs and they do like a family history. They go into the whole, like you can do like a journaling exercise on your family of origin. What was your relationship like with your mom, your dad? What did your parents do for a living? Did you have siblings? A lot of times on the podcast, you'll hear me asking people about their childhood because what happens in childhood sets the stage for what is to happen later. So if people didn't get the love and attention that they need, if they had alcoholic parents, neglectful parents, if there was dysfunction in the home, what we will do is come up with like a strategy to sort of overcome that. So if you're abandoned or neglected by your parents, you have like really extreme independence, almost to a fault. You have a hyper sense of responsibility. You have this people pleasing attributes that you develop in order to sort of manage the people in your life so that you can get your needs met. And the survival skills that you develop in childhood do not really transfer to healthy adult relationships. When you're a little kid, you really don't have the power to set boundaries. And so, setting boundaries is one of the foundational skills or exercises that you need to do when you're first establishing your sobriety. You have to not only teach people how to treat you, you have to be able to recognize your own limitations, right? Like some people think, oh, I should be able to hang out with the same people that I used to hang out with. I should be able to perform or do things for others at the same level that I used to. I should be able to, hang out with toxic people. There's a whole bunch of boundaries. Oftentimes is boundaries are around what you're able to give or not give, what you're able to tolerate or not tolerate. And boundaries are kind of a funny thing because sometimes you don't know where they are until you cross them. Sometimes we think that we are able to handle stressful situations when we really need to remove ourselves. We have this idea of what we expect that we should be able to handle, when what ends up happening is like little bits of stress over time and pushing us over the edge. And that's when people relapse or drink or have like this compulsive behavior to act out or try to numb their feelings or distract from their feelings. So, this is really why the family history part is so important. Another aspect of building your foundation is around getting really clear about what your goals and values are. Everybody has these values like family is important, spirituality, health, like there are all these things that people value. But if I asked a stranger to look at your calendar or watch you for a week, what would they say your priorities really are? There's usually sort of what I call like the knowledge action gap. We know what to do, but taking action, there's like this gap. Sometimes it's really hard to get ourselves to take action on what we already know we should be doing. So, getting clear about what your goals and values are will help you to prioritize how you spend your time. Another part of building your foundation is really preparing your environment for sobriety. If you can, if you have control over your environment, ask the people in your home to get rid of the booze, all that stuff. The other thing you want to do is add things that are going to be good for you. So, stocking up on healthy drinks, healthy snacks, especially snacks that have protein in them. Your willpower decreases at the end of the day, and it's really important to have the nutrition to really support your willpower. Protein snacks are one of those things that help boost your willpower and give you strength in the evenings when a lot of people, they call it the witching hour, like after 5 o'clock when people their willpower starts to dissipate a little bit. So really preparing your environment, like preparing the people, letting the people know in your home that you need support, having the right foods and snacks, like getting rid of the things that will be tempting. That's all part of preparing your environment. Gathering things like books or exercise things, like that's all part of preparing your environment for sobriety. And the last thing I'll go over in this phase is about building a sober toolkit. So, a sober toolkit consists of people, community, resources like on your phone. You might be listening to like my podcast or other people's YouTube channels or other podcasts, audiobooks that'll feed your brain and help you really learn more about yourself. Another part of your sober toolkit is learning how to manage your feelings in a different way. Journaling is a great process of getting everything out of your mind and onto paper. You could just do a quick search in Google Scholar for the benefits of journaling, and you will find thousands of peer-reviewed scientific papers that will show you the evidence of why journaling is so powerful. It's really a way to reprocess your feelings, help you to reframe things. It's a huge stress reliever. Journaling is really an important part of your sober toolkit. Another really important tool in your toolbox would be meditation. And I know a lot of people are really resistant to meditation. People that have never done it before often think, I can't sit still. I can't clear my mind. I can't do it. That's what I hear a lot of times. People have all this resistance to meditation. So I just kind of want to lower the bar a little bit. I interviewed this guy a long time ago who talked about, this was a guy who was meditating in silence for an hour. This was somebody that was addicted to amphetamine, somebody who's just like constantly moving. And I was like, if this guy can meditate in silence for an hour. That is really inspiring to me. It tells me that anybody can do it. And what he did is he started out with 12 breaths. Just sitting in a quiet room, focusing on his breath, eyes closed, hands in your lap, feet flat on the floor. You just get comfortable, but sitting up is kind of important, especially in the beginning, so you don't fall asleep. But just taking 12 breaths. Dr. Andrew Huberman actually did a research paper on box breathing. And box breathing is you breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, breathe out for 4, and then hold that for 4. So it's like a little box. And so if you could do that 12 times, that would be a great start to starting your meditation practice. There are so many benefits. It's crazy. It starts to rewire your brain. It helps reduce anxiety. It reduces stress. It helps to regulate your vagus nerve. There's just so many amazing benefits about meditation. And it doesn't have to take that long. A 12 breaths, what is that, like 5 minutes max? Do that twice a day, like once in the morning and maybe once as you're going to sleep, twice a day, something like that. That'll really start to help you regulate your nervous system. A lot of sobriety is about emotion management. So you want to sort of build and layer all these tools to give you the best possible chance to get sober and make sobriety stick. And the last thing I'll talk about in this foundational phase is how to identify your triggers and then come up with a plan, a strategy to sort of deal with those triggers. So you could do like a journaling exercise. You can just look back at the last several times that you drank. What happened right before? There's typically some sort of stressor, whether you were too tired, stressed out, angry, sad, like some emotion, some extreme emotion. What is your particular trigger? What is it that gets you to say the fuck it's, right? Or just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna drink and start over tomorrow. What is it that does that for you? And oftentimes, like if you have your family history all written out, sometimes you can tie it back to things that were going on when you were young, right? And so identifying your triggers, this is kind of two parts. I would encourage professional support. This is something I do when I coach people, is to, once we identify the triggers, we identify where it came from, and then we can do some hypnosis exercise, some internal family systems exercises. There's all kinds of things that you can do to go back to those. This is like root cause reasons for people to drink. So you go back to these triggers and you start to deal with the root cause, and then you are not as compelled to drink when you feel triggered as you move throughout your life. Your triggers are actually really a gift. Triggers tell you where your wounds are that need to be healed. But in the meantime, you sort of need a plan to how to handle these triggers. So there's a couple ways that you can do this. If you already know that there are certain specific situations that make you want to drink, you either avoid those situations, You ask for help, you have a plan on how to get out of that situation. A lot of times, recovery is about having a sufficient substitute. You remove yourself from the situation. If you decide to go exercise first, if you have a friend that you can call to sort of vent to, that's also really important. My clients will oftentimes text me and be like, hey, on the pain scale, I'm like at a 7. And that's when I know that, we need to sort of problem solve. But have a friend that you can reach out to if you start feeling like you're getting triggered. If you know these situations are going to trigger you, have people or tools. You pull out your sobriety toolkit. That'll help you get through some of those triggers. But I would highly encourage you that once you identify what the triggers are, see if you can resolve at the root issue. So when they happen again, it doesn't sort of rubber band you back to that moment in time where you felt powerless or stressed out. So, for the second phase, which is uncover, discover, and discard, this is really a lot about going back to that family history and identifying the triggers and finding solutions. That's actually a good part of that, too. That's actually where you begin the uncover, discover, discard process. In 12 step, there is an inventory, a searching and fearless moral inventory. It's step 4. And what this writing exercise is, it helps you identify the people that you feel resentful at. Like, are you carrying a grudge from your past? But typically, we're all carrying like a bunch of grudges, right? Like resentments towards family members for things that they did or didn't do, siblings, partners, exes. It could even be your kids. It could be work. It could be anything. Make a list of all the people that you feel resentful at. And then next part of the exercise is to get really specific about the cause of the resentment. Did they do something that was disrespectful? Did they neglect you? Did they say something? Get really specific about the cause, because what ends up happening is people will be like, they did this and that and this and that, and there's like 10 things on the table and it's just a clutter and you don't have any clarity about how it affected you. So you take each instance where you felt resentful and you identify how it affected you. Did it trigger some kind of fear of loss? Did it affect your self-esteem? Did it affect your relationship, your personal security, your emotional security? How were you affected? This is all about cause and effect. What was the cause and what was the effect? As you do this, you'll begin to see a pattern develop. A lot of times people's self-esteem will take hit after hit after hit. The type A personalities tend to take too much responsibility for other people. Like, we think people should act the way that we think that they should act, right? They shouldn't have done this or they should have done that, and we were harmed because they didn't act right. So there are a lot of clues in our thinking that is a result of the cause and effect, right? So if our self-esteem takes hit after hit after hit, then we start to develop these coping strategies to overcome that. But there's this weird thing called a golden algorithm. So it's, you actually attract the very thing that you're trying to defend against. So if you had abandonment issues when you were young and you're in a relationship and you have this anxious attachment style where you're constantly seeking reassurance or trying to people please so that you can get your needs met, that actually pushes people further away and causes them to abandon you. So the process of the uncovering is to recognize, what is it about my behavior that is causing some of these things, and so that we can change our behaviors so that we don't actually incur resentments. And granted, there will be a lot of situations where maybe you were actually victimized. And so that's not what I'm talking about. Those are like trauma situations that you would need to take to a professional, get professional support. Things like EMDR, IFS, those are all good processes for dealing with resentments that have to deal with trauma. But ultimately, this process of uncovering and discovering what was really happening to you, what were the cause and effect, really getting clarity is what's going to help you to decide what is your responsibility, what is not your responsibility. So that's a whole process. It's easier to do it with somebody else. You can do it in 12 step with a sponsor. I do that with my clients too. But it's getting this clarity of letting go of what's not yours so that you can bear the responsibility of what is yours. So the third phase is really about how to create lasting change. And this really involves really good self care. I always talk on the podcast about what is your morning practice? What does your self care routine look like? And mine consists of connecting with others through a gratitude list. I do a gratitude list every day. I do 5 to 12 things that I feel grateful for. It sets the intention for the day. And when your brain is sort of attuned to gratitude, it's amazing how your outlook on life will change. So I would highly encourage starting a gratitude practice. Another part of self-care includes like your physical self-care, right? So whether you do exercise, but it can be walking, you can do anything from like walking to like the 75 hard challenge where you work out twice a day for 45 minutes. Like some people are really intense. But if you're just starting out, even just going for a walk would be good. Maybe you exercise 3 or 4 times a week. Just taking care of your body is really important. Making sure you have water in the morning, just really basic things for your self care for your body. And then we want to think about doing self care for your spirit. And so a lot of people get a little hung up on the spirituality aspect of sobriety. I'm just going to propose that if you're allergic to anything religion, just think of spirit as your energy, your essence, like the universe. Like you do it really broad. Other people are really specific. I have a belief in God, but I have like sort of redefined God to something that makes sense to me, which is really kind of rooted in love and energy. And listen, I've been sober so long. I have seen so many amazing, like literal miracles happen. I have so much evidence that there is a loving force in the world. And so that is really sort of what I think of when I think of God. But a lot of people have a spiritual practice, whether you read something inspiring in the morning, you do your gratitude list, you do some journaling, you do some exercise, meditation. That all happens. Like it's best to do it first thing in the morning. But I have clients who are super busy, like high pressure jobs or whatever. It's like if they get 15 minutes in the morning before the kids get up or before their day starts, like that's a win, right? And consistency doesn't mean daily. So if you can do like your self care practice more days than not, that's a win. The goal is to really not miss it more than 2 days in a row, or that's the start of a new habit. So, really, what you want to do is build on momentum and really establish a self care practice. I highly recommend getting involved in some kind of sober community. I mean, there's so many, there's Facebook groups, there's in person groups, there's different kinds of programs, there's codependency programs, there's ACOA, adult children of alcoholics slash dysfunctional families. Like, it's really important to surround yourself with other people who are sort of on the same path. There are journal papers out there, a scientific paper that was put out by a Harvard and San Diego professors talking about that we are the average of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. The people that you spend the most time with, you start to adopt their beliefs around drinking, exercise, the way you think about yourself, whether you're positive about the world or you are cynical about the world. Who you surround yourself is really important. So I can't stress how important it is to be connected to some kind of sober community. So, really, those are the 3 phases. There's all kinds of little tools. If you go to my website, makesobrietystick.com, under how it works, there is a detailed list of all these things that I mentioned in case you're driving or you didn't have a chance to write everything down. It's all there for you to utilize as a resource. If you need support, of course, I'm here for you too. Feel free to reach out to me, set up some time on my calendar for a free strategy call. If you have any questions, I'm happy to talk to you. But anyway, I hope this session of Sobriety Reset will really help you sort of really get some clarity about what the 3 phases are and how you can incorporate all these tools so that you can stay sober. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the next Sobriety Reset.